Hi, everyone. Welcome to Astro Highlights for October 29th to November 4th, 2023. I'm Angela Alston, and I'm happy to walk you through what is going on this week astrologically. I'm off camera today because I'm not feeling well. I'm going to see how this works. So before I get started into the highlights of this week, I want to invite you over to my blog at my website. That's www.angelaalstonastrology.com. You can find my blog there. I have a new feature up for this month, and it is Welcome to the Scorpion Table. It is food ideas for astrological eating, which is a way to align your microcosm to the macrocosm. It can also just be a lot of fun and give you some new ideas for food for the upcoming month. Also, over at my blog, there's a narrative writing exercise for Scorpio season. Narrative therapy is sort of a approach and toolbox that allows you to step into your preferred identities. It's something that I've used personally and that I use with clients to really great effect. And so this month's narrative writing exercise activity is remembering who transforms you, getting into some creative dialogue with people, living or dead, real or imaginary, who have helped you transform in your life. And with that, let's dive right into the creative potential of this week, October 29th to November 4th. This is the end of October, and it has absolutely been a banner month. In some ways unforgettable, I think, certainly for me. And we're moving into November. So the sun is in Scorpio, traveling from 5 degrees 35 to 12 degrees 35. The moon, coming off a very intense eclipse, is 1124 Taurus, traveling to 1151 Leo. There's a lot going on with the moon this week. We'll get into that in a few slides. Mercury is in Scorpio, traveling 1124 to 2223, really gaining speed. Still very close to the sun, still under the beams, so not in its full strength yet, but it's coming. Venus is in Virgo in her fall, traveling from 1916 to 2638. Mars is in Scorpio, traveling 1141 to 1632, also still under the beams of the sun. Jupiter is in Taurus, re-traveling 1110 to 1013. It has been retrograde for what feels like forever, and we still have a couple more months. I believe Jupiter stations direct on New Year's Eve. And then Saturn in Pisces also re-traveling 032 to 030 at the end of the week. Saturn is going to be stationing direct. This is huge news, and news that will be very, very welcome. This Saturn retrograde has been particularly, I would say, challenging. So 4 things that we want to talk about this week. There's some water trines that are going to offer potential for some relief, for some compassion. An Earth trine between Venus and Pluto. If you remember last week, Venus had a really delicious Earth trine with Jupiter, And now as she progresses, she's going to be picking up some Pluto love. So we can talk about how we can maximize that for our creative potential. Saturn stationing direct. And then we can't avoid it. We have to talk about some of the challenges that this week is going to bring. There's challenging skies with an almost grand cross and ending the week with a T-square. So let's get into it. The moon in Cancer. The moon is very dignified in Cancer. It rules Cancer. And it will be picking up some trines with Saturn, with the Sun, with Mars, and with Mercury. So water trines offer some salve, some balm, some relief from the current intensity. They invite a channel, they open a channel for compassion and for remembrance of our shared humanity. The moon rules the people, what we have in common. Under the moon, we are all the moon's children. And so this begins really on November 1st with the moon in Cancer, trining Saturn in Pisces. So that's really inviting some nurturing compassion. Moon in Cancer is trining the Sun. Moon, Sun trines really help our hearts and minds, our solar and our lunar natures to sync up so they can really support each other. So that's going to be a wonderful time for some self-care, which I think at this point we all need. November 2nd, the moon in Cancer is trining Mars in Scorpio. And then it will be moving to trine Mercury in Scorpio, hopefully softening our actions and our reactions, as well as our thoughts and our communication. Really thinking about moon in Cancer is what we need on primal levels. And when Cancer and Scorpio meet up, there can be such a depth of compassion and a really feeling into the pain, the trauma of ourselves and of others with a gentleness and a desire to heal and really to nurture. Now that's November 1st and November 2nd, so that is Wednesday and Thursday, not exactly at the beginning of the week, but it's building. The moon tends to move very quickly, as we all know, and I don't often really rest on aspects from the moon unless unless the moon is making some really profound connections, which this week it truly is. And of course, it's coming off the eclipse of Saturday. And right now, this is Sunday, so that was just yesterday. And I would love to hear how your eclipse stories, what happened. You know, this eclipse did not personally impact me, but it has impacted members of my family in really profound ways. So yeah, please email me Angela Alston Astrology at gmail.com. Let me know what happened to you this eclipse. And now we're moving to Venus trine Pluto. Again, Venus was in a really nice trine, a really supportive trine with Jupiter, wisdom, the right path, abundance. And now she's moving into a trine with Pluto. And Pluto rules so many things, but one is what is hidden, right? What our deepest desires are. Things that we don't show the public, and sometimes we don't even show ourselves. Pluto rules the underworld and what is in our deepest, deepest hearts. Now, Venus and Pluto are in both in earth signs. And so this has the possibility of really manifesting. Earth makes material. It makes things real. Pluto loves transformation. And so this is a time of manifesting what your deepest desires are, what your real truth is around your desire nature, unleashing your dragon. It's about powerful, earthy attractions. Things that are started at this time will not be superficial, whether they are relationships or artistic projects. This is an incredible time to dive into some art, to really go into your basement or your subconscious and pull out that trauma. You know, Pluto is often related to the trauma in our lives, and Venus offers a loving avenue to transform that into something healing and something beautiful. Doesn't have to be beautiful aesthetically. You know, Venus trine Pluto understands that sometimes the ugly, you know, what is not perfectly symmetrical and, you know, following the color wheel, that the broken, the ugly, the different, the scorned, the parts of you that have been banished can be kind of gently accessed during this trine. I had mentioned the transformative aspect. You know, Pluto loves to transform, and it's not easy energy to work with. And just because Venus is going to be connecting with it in this supportive trine, that doesn't take the teeth away from Pluto. Pluto always has teeth. But I think one of the big messages here is don't be afraid of what you really want. And then we're going to move to Saturn stationing direct. Saturn has been retrograde since June 19th, so all summer and up until the fall. At this point, it's beginning to station direct first week of November. So we see that starting on November 4th. You know, that's a process. It's not an overnight thing. But this is going to be a very, very welcome message to me, first of all, and to many of my clients. This has been a super tough, because Saturn in Pisces is a little bit hard. It's a little bit tricky to begin with. A lot of it is finding your own inner sense of authority, of rightness. A lot of the blocks that come up during Saturn retrograde, Saturn is a gatekeeper, and when it's retrograde, we tend to hit those walls a little bit more than when it's stationing direct, although things with Saturn are never easy. In Pisces, they can be particularly confusing. Saturn does not flourish in the sign of Pisces. And then retrograde, people's inner navigation has just been haywire and just not truly understanding, not really understanding why. And so the best thing that this week is bringing us, in my opinion, is the beginning of the process of getting unstuck. All summer and up until, basically this week, so all fall so far, there's just areas in our lives that have just been stuck. And it's about finding your navigation again, getting back on course. You're not just this little ship on the sea at night, having no idea where you're going. Now the clouds are parting and you can navigate by the stars again. And this is also about gaining traction on your goals, on your work, steering true. And one of the things that a Saturn retrograde period is supposed to offer us is the ability to seek our own authority, not be seeking it from external forces, external manifestations, figures of authority, but finding that voice of authority inside yourself. And in Pisces, it's really about a moral authority. Okay? What is virtue to you? What does shared humanity mean to you? And applying that wisdom in the actions in the outer world. And that is going to be easier and easier to do as Saturn stations direct and then starts traveling direct again. So that is some good news. And now for the less good news. There's no way around it. November 3rd and November 4th bring some really tough skies. Now you can see over here in the upper left, we have November 3rd, and there is an almost Grand Cross. And it is made by the still active opposition between the Sun and Jupiter. This is really about leadership, what's right, and the Moon in square to the nodes, the South and North node, and in opposition to Pluto. So this is going to feel very fated, that we are in a situation. Grand crosses can feel very stuck. And with the main opposition between two fixed signs, it's almost this, here we go again, and bringing up trauma to the people from the past. So that's really what November 3rd is. That's really how it's reading to me. Now, tough skies give opportunities, right? It's not they're not an excuse, and they don't cause anything. But being aware that they're coming gives you the opportunity to decide how you're going to act and react, knowing that there are these tendencies, these channels that are kind of open right now for some pretty intense ego opposition and for delving into past trauma. Gives you an opportunity to make choices around how you are going to deal with that. And you'll see, here on the 3rd, the moon is also sextiling Venus. So that is one avenue of release. And then we have the South Node in an out of sign trine to Saturn. So you can choose to act in a way that has dignity, take the high road, even though what is being churned up, might be very difficult. You can choose to act in a way that is loving, creative. Venus is in that trine to Pluto, which is a really potent trine. You can make art and also look at things in a way that is fearless. Moon opposite Pluto allows you to look on your own trauma, childhood traumas, in a way that can be very brave. And then moving on to November 4th, we're no longer in the almost Grand Cross, but we have moved to a T-square. And T-square is between the moon, Jupiter, and the sun. So again, fixed energy. The moon has moved into Leo. And so we have Leo squaring Jupiter. Moon in Leo squaring Jupiter in Taurus. We have moon in Leo squaring the sun in Scorpio. But what we don't have is the Aquarian energy. And we call what's not there in a T-square the missing leg. And it's leaning into the missing leg that can really help kind of smooth the edges of a T-square. And so the missing leg in this fixed T-square is Aquarius. And so what we need at this time is, very simply put, humanitarianism, right? We need that Aquarian, cool, level-headed humanitarianism. Now, these aspect patterns may be fleeting because they are being created by aspects to the moon, and the moon moves quickly. But a lot of healing and a lot of damage can be done in 2 days. And we have the opportunity to take the high road. And knowing what's coming up and being able to prepare yourself for it mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and to know there might be a lot of very argumentative, very sort of deeply entrenched, that's what you really see when the sun is opposite Jupiter. You have strong ideas, ego, and Jupiter tends to inflate make those ego issues larger. And when the sun is in Scorpio, a lot of that's going to be about control. Scorpio is about power. Just it doesn't even play that it's not. It's about power and control. And opposite Jupiter, those tendencies can be really inflated. And so walk with humility and just extend kindness. That humanitarianism, you don't have to engage. That's the bottom line. So to recap, the moon is very active this week and begins by offering some watery trines. Venus is also trining Pluto. Saturn, at the end of the week, is stationing direct, which is going to help the whole situation in our lives tremendously. People don't always realize how important Saturn is to things working well. But then the week ends on a nearly grand cross that can feel very faded because the nodes and Pluto are involved, and then moves into a T-square. T-squares are times of crises, conflict. They're trying, they're challenging. Challenging means that you have an opportunity to rise to the occasion. And one of the things that this T-square invites is asking us to demand leadership that puts humanitarian needs first. And before I go, please contact me with your relationship question. I have gotten some amazing questions and from all over the world. It's really exciting to hear that I have people listening, watching these videos from Ireland, the UK, Canada. Again, it's a horary question, so I don't need your birth date or the date of the person you're asking about, just the question. And if it is something that can be answered by horary, I'll get in touch with you, let you know. The horary will be free as long as I can use it in my upcoming podcast. So just put the subject in the email podcast, so I know that it's going towards that, and you're not just asking a horary question. Which please feel free to do that as well. It's what I'm here for you. And email that to Angela alstonastrology@gmail.com. And finally, I want to thank you, not only for listening, but thank you for turning to astrology and for using astrology as a tool for understanding yourselves and our world. It is a potent tool for understanding, and I really admire the people who, especially during these times when the world is so overwhelming and so confusing, and you come trying to seek answers about how you can help, how you can put it into a framework that makes any sort of sense, and how you can show up and heal and be your best selves for your life and for the people and the communities that we are a part of. So I think that is just extraordinary. And with that, thank you for joining, and I look forward to being back in person with you next week.